people sleep during cold winters in the Middle Ages. Their methods will definitely shock you. We are used to thinking of sleep as a continuous 8-hour rest in a warm and cozy bed. But what if I told you that for thousands of years, people slept completely differently? Their world lacked central heating, down comforters, and orthopedic mattresses, and the long winter nights were a real test of endurance. In these harsh conditions, a whole culture of sleep was born, based not on technology, but on a deep understanding of nature and the human body. It was a system full of amazing tricks and practices that seem strange to us today, but which allowed people to survive the most severe frosts.
Rest well, my lord.
We will take a look into the bedrooms of medieval peasants and lords to understand how they turned cold nights into a source of rest. Watch the video to the end, and you will learn why waking up in the middle of the night was considered normal and even beneficial, and how this ancient habit can solve many of the problems of modern people with insomnia. What if I told you the shocking truth that absolutely everything you firmly believed about the usual sleep alone is a modern falsehood and anomaly? For the typical medieval person of any social class, sleep was never a purely personal, intimate affair. It was a natural continuation of social life, the last collective act of the daily routine, which was organically performed together by the whole group. Going to sleep was a complex ritual with rules, in which the entire extended family or even the entire community living under one roof actively participated. Sleep was as much a social activity as eating at a common table. No one sought solitude for rest. The evening traditionally began with the careful preparation of a common sleeping area for everyone, which in itself was an important collective activity and responsibility. In the large central hall of the castle, or in the only cramped room of a peasant's house, all the people naturally gathered in a tight group around the warm hearth, the last reliable source of heat and light in the darkness. This was a sacred time for oral storytelling, communal evening prayers, and discussion of the events of the past working day, creating a powerful sense of unity and collective security in the face of the dark, cold, and dangerous night outside. The community was strengthened through these rituals of unity before bedtime, when people were most vulnerable. The physical act of going to bed was completely public, devoid of the intimacy and privacy that we modern people value so highly today as a right. Several generations of one large family, from infants to the elderly, as well as servants or hired workers, would sleep side by side on shared wooden couches or even in one huge bed, the size of a modern room. This forced cohabitation at night was not only a necessary measure due to acute lack of space and poverty, but also a conscious key strategy for physical survival in the cold. Sharing beds was the norm, not the exception, for all classes except the wealthiest. The precious warmth of human bodies sleeping close together was one of the most reliable and free sources of heating in the absence of heating. It was crucial for saving precious fuel at night and maintaining a relatively comfortable temperature under a heavy blanket or animal skins. In this cramped, intimate space, the rigid social boundaries between masters and servants were temporarily erased, and everyone became equal in the face of a common enemy, the nighttime cold, which could kill. Survival was more important than status and propriety. Careful preparation of the hearth for the long night was also an essential part of the evening safety ritual. The burning coals were carefully covered with a thick layer of ash so that they would continue to smolder slowly until morning without supervision, preserving the precious heat in the house and allowing a full fire to be quickly lit at the first rays of dawn.
Keep us safe
This delicate process, known in English as banking the fire, required certain skills and experience, and was a highly responsible task on which everyone's life depended. An extinguished hearth meant a cold morning and the need to relight the fire, which was laborious. Then it was time to carefully protect the entire dwelling from the nighttime cold outside. Heavy wooden shutters on the few windows were tightly closed with bolts from the inside, and numerous cracks in the walls and doors were methodically plugged with cloth, tow, or moss for airtightness. Every member of the family, including the children, contributed what they could to this critical process of protection, turning the house into a kind of airtight fortress against the cold. It was a collective survival effort where everyone was responsible for the common safety.
Look at him, safe and sound.
The bed, if the family had one, was the recognized center of this closed nighttime world. It was not just a utilitarian piece of furniture for sleeping, but a vivid symbol of the family's material status and a valuable asset passed down from generation to generation. Its evening preparation, which included beating down matted straw mattresses for softness and carefully layering woolen blankets, was the last important step before the collective descent into sleep. The quality of the bed reflected the family's prosperity and its ability to provide comfort to its members. Thus, the medieval bedtime ritual was not an individualistic escape into the isolated world of personal dreams, but a collective act of mutual support and care for one another. People fell asleep in the dark, feeling the soothing breath and living warmth of their loved ones and relatives nearby.
Night, love.
This created a powerful, deep psychological sense of security and belonging to a group, which is so desperately lacking in the atomized modern person living in solitude. Sleeping together strengthened social bonds on a subconscious level every night. This ancient tradition of sleeping together was not a sign of primitive savagery or backwardness, but a wise and practical solution to the problems of survival. It physically united people and psychologically allowed them to effectively withstand the harsh conditions of the hostile world around them. It was a daily practical lesson in deep trust and interdependence among community members, which individualistic modern society has tragically lost in many ways in its pursuit of privacy. We have exchanged the warmth of community for the coldness of loneliness. I would be very interested to hear your balanced opinion on this issue. What exactly do you think about how such a collective practice of sleeping together could affect the depth of relationships between people and the sense of community? Please write your opinion in detail in the comments below.
Good morning, Thomas. A fine day after a cold night.
Are you ready to learn the shocking truth about medieval bedrooms? Forget about separate rooms with cozy beds. The center of life and sleep in the vast majority of medieval homes was a large common hall. This is where the main and often only source of heat was located, an open hearth located right in the center of the room. In the early Middle Ages, smoke from the hearth escaped through a simple hole in the roof or through high windows. This made the air in the room acrid and stifling, but it allowed maximum heat to be retained inside. The walls and ceiling quickly became covered with a thick layer of soot, which oddly enough served as an additional layer of insulation. The design of the houses was aimed at maximum heat retention. The walls of peasant dwellings were often built using the wattle and daub technique, a woven frame of branches covered with a mixture of clay, straw, and manure. Such a wall was thick and had good thermal insulation properties for its time. The windows were small and few in number to reduce heat loss. In the homes of the poor, they were simple openings that were covered at night with wooden shutters, bundles of straw, or simply rags. Glass was an incredible luxury, available only to churches and the wealthiest aristocrats. Even in castles and wealthy homes, glass was rare. Instead, oiled paper or thinly tanned leather was often used, which let in a little light but did not protect well against the cold. Therefore, heavy wooden shutters were a must for any window. Bedding was placed as close to the hearth as possible to capture its warmth. However, this was also dangerous. A spark flying out of the fire could easily set fire to a straw mattress. Therefore, people slept constantly, feeling the balance between life-saving warmth and potential danger. In later and richer buildings, the hearth was moved to the wall and equipped with a chimney. This made staying indoors much more comfortable, but also led to increased heat loss as warm air escaped through the pipe. Architects had to look for new solutions to conserve heat. The floors in simple houses were earthen or adobe. To insulate them in some way, the floor was covered with a thick layer of straw or dry grass. This layer was regularly renewed, but it served as a refuge for dirt and waste, creating serious hygiene problems. In castles and wealthy homes, bedrooms, if there were any, were usually located on the upper floors. This was done so that the warm air rising from the large hall on the first floor would additionally heat these rooms. It was a simple but effective form of passive heating. The entire architecture was subordinated to one main goal: to survive the cold winter. Comfort and personal space were secondary to the vital need to conserve precious heat. These houses were not so much a place to live as a refuge from the hostile outside world. The absence of bright artificial lighting played a key role in shaping sleep patterns. As soon as the sun went down, the only source of light was the dim fire in the hearth, which naturally prepared the body for sleep. Now imagine that waking up in the middle of the night was not a problem, but the norm. In the next chapter, we will reveal the main secret of medieval sleep. I will reveal the most closely guarded secret of medieval sleep, which modern science is only beginning to rediscover. For centuries, people practiced what historians call segmented or biphasic sleep. This means that their night's rest consisted of two separate periods, separated by a fairly long interval of wakefulness. The first sleep, or first watch, began shortly after sunset, around 9 or 10 p.m. People slept until about midnight or 1 a.m., after which they woke up naturally. This awakening was not considered a sign of insomnia or disorder, but was an absolutely normal and expected part of the night. This period of wakefulness, lasting from 1 to 3 hours, was called the watch. It was a quiet, peaceful time intended for reflection, prayer, or quiet conversation with others who were also awake. In complete darkness and silence, people remained in their beds, entering a state similar to meditation. This time was also used for practical purposes. It was possible to check the smoldering coals in the hearth, go to the toilet, or do quiet household chores that did not require light. For married couples, it was the perfect time for intimacy, free from the hustle and bustle of the day and the presence of other family members.
Quiet words.
Many famous thinkers and writers of the time used this nighttime break for creativity. It was believed to provide depth and clarity that were not available during the day. It was a time for calm and focused mental work. After this period of wakefulness, people fell asleep again. This second sleep lasted until dawn. In the morning, they woke up rested and ready for a new day of work, often recalling vivid dreams that came during the second half of the night. The existence of this practice is confirmed by numerous historical documents. References to the first and second sleep can be found in diaries, letters, court records, and even in the medical literature of the time. Doctors gave advice on how to best spend the time between the. This sleep pattern was widespread throughout Europe and persisted until the Industrial Revolution. The advent of bright and cheap street and home lighting in the 18th and 19th centuries radically changed people's attitudes toward the night. Night ceased to be a time for rest and reflection and became a continuation of the day. It was then that the idea of continuous 8-hour sleep became dominant, and waking up in the middle of the night began to be perceived as a medical problem. We forgot the natural rhythm that humanity had lived by for millennia. Many modern cases of insomnia may actually be an echo of this ancient biphasic sleep pattern. Thus, medieval sleep was a much more flexible and harmonious process than ours. It was synchronized with the natural cycles of light and darkness, rather than a rigid work schedule. It was a practice that gave rest not only to the body, but also to the soul. What I am about to show you will change your perception of beds, because they were not just pieces of furniture. For most of the population in the Middle Ages, a simple mattress stuffed with straw or other plant materials served as a bed. This mattress, known as a palliaus, was placed directly on the floor or on a simple wooden bench along the wall. Straw was the most affordable filling, but it quickly became matted, stiff, and absorbed moisture. It had to be changed and dried regularly to avoid rotting and unpleasant odors. For greater comfort, bags filled with softer materials, such as wool or feathers, could be placed on top, but this was not available to everyone. The real breakthrough came with the advent of the frame bed on legs. This simple change allowed the sleeper to be raised above the cold and dirty floor, protecting them from drafts. The base for the mattress in such beds was not a solid board, but a dense mesh of ropes or leather straps. These ropes sagged over time and had to be tightened regularly with a special wrench. This is where the English expression "sleep tight" comes from, which originally meant sleeping on tightly stretched ropes. This work was also part of the evening ritual of preparing for bed. For the aristocracy and wealthy townspeople, the bed became the main luxury item and status symbol. It became a huge, richly decorated carved structure that took center stage in the bedroom. It was often the most expensive item in the entire house, mentioned first in wills.
Have you ever seen
the pinnacle of this evolution was the famous four-poster bed with a canopy, known as the four-poster bed. This design was not just a decorative element, but an ingenious engineering solution for retaining heat. It was a real room within a room. The heavy, thick curtains that surrounded the bed on all sides were made of expensive fabrics such as velvet or tapestry. At night, they were drawn tightly, creating a small enclosed space. The warmth from the breath and bodies of the sleeping people quickly heated the air inside, creating a comfortable microclimate. The canopy over the bed also served a practical function. It protected sleepers from dust, debris, and insects that could fall from the ceiling. This was especially important in simple houses with thatched roofs. Not only the owners of the house could sleep in such beds, but also their close servants or companions. This was considered a sign of special trust and honor. The bed was not only a place to sleep, but also to receive guests, hold business meetings, and even administer justice. Thus, the medieval bed went from being a modest sack of straw to a complex architectural structure. It reflected the social status of its owner and was the pinnacle of comfort technology of the time. And what did people lie on these beds? How comfortable do you think such a bed was compared to a modern one? In the next chapter, we will find out what people used to cover themselves with to keep warm on cold nights. The basis of bedding in the Middle Ages was simple but functional materials provided by nature itself. The main protection from the cold was, of course, woolen blankets. Coarse, undyed sheep's wool had unique heat-retaining properties that were valued as much as gold. The blankets were thick, heavy, and often prickly, but they effectively retained body heat by creating an air layer. Often, several blankets were used, layered for better insulation. The weight of these covers also created a feeling of comfort and security, helping people fall asleep faster. Wealthy people could afford blankets made of finer, softer wool, dyed in bright colors. Sometimes they were lined with fur, which turned a simple blanket into a luxury item. Such items were passed down from generation to generation and were a sign of high status. Often slept direct. Sheets that came into direct contact with the body were mainly made of linen. Linen was relatively expensive to produce, so not everyone had sheets. Peasants often slept directly on a straw mattress, covered with a woolen blanket or simply their dignity. Those who could afford linen sheets valued them highly. Linen is hygienic, absorbs moisture well, and is pleasant to the touch. White linen sheets were a sign of cleanliness and wealth. Pillows were also common, but their fillings varied greatly depending on the status of the owner. Most people used pillows stuffed with straw or dry herbs. Wealthier citizens could afford pillows stuffed with feathers or down. There were also long bolster pillows known as bolsters. These were placed along the entire width of the bed under the main pillows. They provided additional support and prevented the pillows from sinking into the gaps between the mattresses. Caring for bedding was a difficult task. Wool blankets were too heavy to wash frequently, so they were mainly aired and beaten. Linen sheets were washed regularly using lye, an aqueous solution of wood ash that served as a primitive detergent. Keeping bedding dry was a top priority. In damp and poorly ventilated rooms, moisture could quickly lead to mold and rot. Therefore, in good weather, all mattresses, blankets, and pillows were taken out into the sun to dry. Thus, bedding was simple but functional. It served its main purpose, to help retain heat and provide at least a minimum of comfort. Every item, from straw mattresses to wool blankets, was part of a well-thought-out system for survival in a cold world. Are you ready for the shocking truth about medieval nightwear and its function? Contrary to a common misconception from movies, the vast majority of people in the Middle Ages definitely did not sleep completely naked, especially during the cold season from fall to spring. Nightwear was an important, well-thought-out element of the overall strategy of conserving precious body heat, the first critical barrier between the vulnerable body and the cold night air in an unheated room. Sleeping naked was a luxury of warm climates, unavailable in cold Europe for most of the year. The main universal item in the modest nightwear wardrobe for both men of all ages and women was a long, loose-fitting shirt made of fabric. The men's version was called a nightshirt in English, while the women's was called a shift or chemise. These practical shirts were made of affordable linen or coarse canvas, and they reached freely to the knees or even to the ankles for maximum body coverage. The length was not an aesthetic choice, but a functional necessity to keep the feet warm. Long sleeves were also a mandatory feature of nightgowns, rather than a decorative element. They reliably protected the arms from the penetrating cold and allowed the wearer to wrap themselves completely in the warming fabric if necessary. The loose, free-flowing cut did not restrict natural movements during sleep and created an additional insulating air layer between the body and the fabric, which effectively helped to retain the heat generated by the body. Tight-fitting clothing would have been less effective for thermal insulation, as it did not create an air cushion. Therefore, practically everyone, from the poorest peasants to the richest kings, slept in special nightcaps. This was a universal practice for all classes without exception, dictated by physiology and climate. These practical caps were simple in design, cone-shaped or baggy in form, and were homemade from warm wool or thick, multi-layered linen. They fit snugly around the head and ears, reliably protecting them from the chilly drafts in the house. For many, it was such a familiar item of clothing that they did not take it off even during the day in the cold season, wearing it at home and outside. The cap was a symbol of home comfort and practicality, not fashion. Some people, especially the elderly or sick during the harshest winter frosts, could additionally wear warm stockings on their feet at night. Woolen stockings, which were usually worn during the day under shoes, helped to keep the feet warm throughout the night, which was extremely important for the overall comfort of the whole body and for falling asleep quickly without shivering. It was a simple but incredibly effective measure of warmth, as cold feet prevented sleep and caused discomfort. The poorest segments of the population, who simply did not have a separate special nightgown due to poverty, were often forced to sleep directly in their daytime everyday clothes without changing. They simply loosened their tight belts for comfort and took off their rough shoes, using their outer clothing as an additional makeshift blanket over themselves. This was not very hygienic by modern standards, but it was critical to prevent them from freezing to death during the night. Survival was more important than cleanliness for those living on the brink of poverty. The color of nightwear was predominantly white or natural gray beige, undyed linen. This was due to the practical fact that white linen fabric was technically the easiest to periodically bleach in bright sunlight and boil in water to disinfect it from parasites. Bright, durable dyes were prohibitively expensive and were used mainly for the richest form of weekend wear, not for utilitarian nightwear. The color white was synonymous with cleanliness and practicality and care. Thus, nightwear was not a fashion whim or luxury, but a harsh necessity for survival in the cold. It was the first and most important protective layer in the complex, multi-layered warming system that medieval people consciously created around themselves in order to survive. Every element of this seemingly simple wardrobe was carefully thought out and maximally functional, honed by centuries of experience in combating the cold. But what exactly did freezing people do when the precious warmth of blankets and nightclothes was still not enough for comfort? In the next fascinating chapter, we will take a detailed look at personal devices for additional heating, which were ingeniously placed directly in bed under the blanket to warm the body. When the cold penetrated walls and blankets, more active methods of warming the bed were used. One of the most common and ingenious inventions was a bed warmer known as a warming pan. This device was a metal container similar to a frying pan with a lid attached to a long wooden handle. Before bedtime, this container was filled with hot coals or hot stones from the hearth. The lid was tightly closed so that sparks would not fly out. Then the warmer was placed between the sheets and blankets, quickly heating the bedding and mattress. This process required caution, as a hot water bottle that was too hot could burn the fabric. However, the effect was remarkable. The bed became warm and cozy, allowing one to quickly warm up and fall asleep. The long handle allowed for safe handling of the hot metal. A simpler and more affordable alternative was ordinary stones or bricks. They were heated in the hearth and then wrapped in several layers of thick fabric to avoid burns and damage to the bed. This improvised heater was placed at the feet, where it slowly gave off its heat for several hours. Some people used special ceramic or metal vessels filled with hot water. These were the predecessors of modern rubber hot water bottles. Although they cooled faster than stones or coals, they were safer to use. Layers of clothing also served as personal heaters. People did not undress completely before going to bed. They only took off their outer, often dirty or wet clothes, remaining in their undergarments and stockings. It was important to get into bed already warm. If a person was very cold, they would spend some time by the hearth before going to sleep. Trying to warm up in a cold bed was a long and difficult task. These simple methods showed a deep understanding of the principles of heat transfer. People used the accumulated heat from the hearth to warm their sleeping area locally. This was much more economical than trying to heat the entire room. Such personal warmers were especially important for elderly or sick people who had poor circulation. The ability to warm cold feet and hands was not just a matter of comfort, but a guarantee of health. It was a simple but vital technology. Each of these devices was part of an arsenal of tools for combating the nighttime cold. They demonstrate the ingenuity of medieval man, his ability to find simple and effective solutions to complex problems. Heat was a resource that had to be obtained, preserved, and used wisely. The architectural design of medieval houses was directly related to the need to conserve heat. In addition to the thick walls and small windows we have already mentioned, there were many other tricks. One of them was the use of textiles to insulate rooms.
Much better.
In castles and wealthy homes, walls were often hung with heavy tapestries. These works of art were not only decorative and a demonstration of status, but also an effective means of combating drafts. The thick woolen fabric created a barrier that prevented the cold from the stone walls from penetrating the room. Doorways were also draped with thick curtains known as portières. This simple solution significantly reduced the drafts that blew through the corridors and enfilades of rooms. An additional vestibule was created to keep warm air inside the living space.
Mind the draft by the door. Almost there.
The layout of the rooms inside a large house or castle was also well thought out. The most important living quarters, such as the Lord's bedroom, were placed on the south side of the building. This allowed for maximum use of the sun's heat during the short winter days. The kitchen, with its constantly burning hearth, was often located so that its heat would warm the adjacent rooms. This was another form of passive heating, using the heat that was generated for cooking anyway. Sometimes the servants' bedrooms were located directly above the kitchen. Internal shutters were another effective means of insulation. Unlike external shutters, they were installed from the inside of the room and created an additional air gap between the window and the room. Both external and internal shutters were closed at night, providing double protection. In some regions, especially in Scandinavia, it was common to build houses with roofs covered with turf. A thick layer of earth and grass had excellent thermal insulation properties. In winter, such a roof was covered with snow, which served as additional insulation. Even furniture was arranged with heat conservation in mind. Beds and tables were placed away from cold exterior walls and closer to interior partitions or the hearth. High backs on chairs and armchairs were also designed to protect against drafts. The entire living environment was organized as a multi-level system of protection from the cold. Every element, from the location of the house on the terrain to the tapestry on the wall, contributed to the creation of a habitable microclimate. It was a holistic ecosystem of survival. This deep interconnection between architecture, decor, and everyday life demonstrates how seriously medieval people took the problem of cold. Their homes were not just boxes to live in, but complex machines for conserving heat. Every detail had a practical purpose. The central hearth was not just a source of heat, it was the sacred center of the home, around which all life revolved, especially the nighttime routine. Controlling the fire was one of the most important skills that the owners of the house possessed. Not only did a comfortable temperature depend on it, but so did the safety of the entire dwelling. The fire was never completely extinguished at night, except during the warmest summer months. This was because lighting a fire from scratch with flint and steel was a long and laborious process. It was much easier to keep the embers smoldering until morning. The process of preserving the coals, or banking the fire, was a real art. Before going to bed, the largest and hottest coals were raked into the center of the hearth. Then they were tightly covered with a thick layer of ash left over from the wood that had burned during the day. The ash restricted oxygen access to the coals, preventing them from burning completely, but allowing them to continue to smolder slowly. This created a kind of thermal battery that radiated gentle, even heat throughout the night. In the morning, it was enough to rake the ashes and add dry kindling to the smoldering coals for the fire to flare up with renewed vigor. The place by the hearth was the warmest and most honorable. This is where the owners of the house or the most respected members of the family slept. The further away from the fire, the colder the sleeping place. The smoke that filled the room was a serious problem, but people adapted to it. They knew that smoke accumulated at the top, so they tried to place their beds as low as possible. This is one of the reasons why beds with high legs appeared much later, along with chimneys. The hearth was also a source of dim light that dispelled the absolute darkness of the night. The flickering embers created a feeling of comfort and scared away evil spirits, in whose existence many believed. Fire was a symbol of life and protection in the midst of the dead winter landscape. Wet clothes and shoes were dried around the hearth. At night, containers of water were placed next to it to prevent them from freezing. It was the multifunctional heart of the home, providing for all the basic needs of its inhabitants. Despite all its advantages, an open fire also posed a huge danger. A single spark falling on a straw floor or wooden structure could lead to a fire that destroyed entire villages. Constant monitoring of the fire was essential for survival. Thus, the hearth was a living being at the center of the house. It had to be fed, lulled to sleep at night, and awakened in the morning. It was treated with respect because the well-being of the entire family depended on it. Having considered all these numerous details of medieval life and sleep, we can reasonably ask ourselves a fundamental question. What exactly can this centuries-old experience of our ancestors teach us today? The modern technological world, with its numerous innovations, seems to have finally solved all problems related to sleep and comfort. However, alarming statistics on widespread sleep disorders and insomnia in developed countries convincingly suggest the opposite. We sleep worse than ever. Progress has not brought us healthy sleep, but only new problems that our ancestors did not know about. The main fundamental lesson is the indisputable fact that our human body has evolved over millions of years to adapt to the natural change of day and night, sunlight and moonlight. Medieval man lived in complete harmony with these natural circadian cycles of nature without deviation. Their working day naturally ended with the sun setting on the horizon, and the long night inevitably brought with it deep, pitch darkness, which physiologically promoted the active production of melatonin, the key sleep hormone in the body. The body knew when to sleep, receiving clear signals from the environment without artificial interference. Modern urbanized people live in a completely artificial world of constant bright light around the clock. The bright screens of smartphones and computers, which we obsessively use right before bed, intensely emit blue shortwave light, actively suppressing the natural production of vital melatonin in the brain. We artificially extend daylight hours far beyond midnight, deceiving our ancient brains and actively preventing them from preparing properly for the rest they need. Our bodies think it is still daytime, even though it is the middle of the night, and this disruption of natural rhythms takes a heavy toll on our health. The practice of segmented biphasic sleep with an interval, which was the absolute norm for our ancestors for centuries, may seem like a strange anomaly or disorder today. However, it raises an important and provocative question. Is continuous 8-hour monolithic sleep the only correct and healthy model for everyone? Many modern people who wake up in the middle of the night and are seriously concerned about it as a problem may simply be intuitively following an ancient evolutionary rhythm that is genetically embedded in them. This is not a disease, but a norm that we have forgotten and come to consider pathological. The period of quiet, peaceful wakefulness in the middle of the night in the dark, which our wise ancestors used productively for deep reflection and self-analysis, may be precisely the rare time that is catastrophically lacking in the overloaded modern person. In a crazy world of constant information overload and stimulation, we have almost no precious time left for calm, self-analysis, and reflection in silence. Perhaps this natural nighttime pause is a deep natural need of our overloaded consciousness to process information rather than a system failure that requires correction with sleeping pills. The idea of thermal hygiene for sleep is also extremely relevant and has been confirmed by science. Medieval people intuitively understood from experience that for truly good, deep sleep, a cool, well-ventilated room is essential, but at the same time, a warm, cozy bed for the body is also necessary. Modern scientific research by sleep specialists convincingly confirms that sleep in a cool room has at 16, 18 degrees something is deeper, better quality, and more restorative for the body. Heat interferes with deep sleep, while cold promotes it. This knowledge was lost with the advent of central heating. We have naively become accustomed to the belief that technology automatically solves all our problems and improves our lives. But sometimes it unexpectedly creates completely new problems instead of old ones. Central heating, which artificially maintains the same high temperature day and night all year round, can seriously disrupt the natural thermoregulatory processes of the human body, which are tuned to fluctuations. Simply airing out the bedroom before bed and lowering the temperature is a symbolic step back to the forgotten wisdom of our ancestors, who understood nature better than we do with our science. The invaluable experience of the past teaches us to be more attentive and sensitive to the signals of our own bodies, rather than suppressing them. It clearly shows that sleep is not just a passive, unconscious state of shutdown, but a complex and flexible adaptive process closely linked to the environment and its conditions. Perhaps we really should not fight natural nighttime awakenings with pills, but accept them calmly as a normal part of our biological nature. Accepting our nature instead of fighting it may be the key to healthy sleep. We have taken a journey into the dark and cold nights of the Middle Ages and seen that they were filled not only with hardship, but also with remarkable ingenuity. Our ancestors' sleep system was a holistic philosophy where architecture, social habits, and a deep understanding of nature worked together. It was a world where waking up in the middle of the night was a time for reflection, and the warmth of the human body was valued above any comfort. Perhaps some of these ancient practices, such as segmented sleep or living in harmony with natural light, can offer answers to the challenges of the modern world with its epidemic of insomnia. The history of sleep is not just a collection of curious facts, but a reminder that the wisest solutions have often already been found in the past. Please suggest topics for future videos that you would like to see on our channel in the comments. We are interested to know what other secrets of history you would like to uncover with us. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new research into the past.